Welcome everybody, this is Chris Gargolino with Widow Creek Photography. I am an action sports photographer and videographer, as well as a product photographer, commercial product photographer. When I'm doing my video work and I do like commercials and things like that, or I'm out doing action sports, a lot of times having audio with interviews and things like that are key to making the video work well. And today I'm going to talk about a system that I got. I got a new dual channel audio system. It has a receiver and it has 2 transmitters and 2 lavs. And this is the Comica WS60. And I've used a lot of the Comica products before. They work really well, especially for the kind of stuff that I do. I'm very happy with the brand. I've used it for a couple years now and it's treated me very well. But today we're going to talk about the WS60 and its dual capabilities. The ability to record on the left channel and the right channel is awesome. And this is not just limited to lavalier mics. There are times where I will have the A channel hooked up with a lavalier on me while I'm talking, while I'm shooting the video, but the B channel will have a small shotgun mic very similar to this one plugged into it, and it'll be set up out on a track somewhere where I can pick up a lot of ambient audio that way as well. And then when I do want to do interviews, I can mic up somebody and we can sit down and talk. I have an interview from a product shoot that I did a couple weeks ago that I'm going to add to this video so that you guys can see how well this works. This system is actually designed in mind for smartphones. Although I don't use them for smartphones, I find that even some of the equipment designed for smartphones works really well with DSLRs. And the way that this system works for smartphones is you move these little ears out this way and then you move these out here, and this will unscrew to make kind of like a little clamp holder where you can drop your phone in just like this, and then you can screw it back down. And it does come with a little mini tripod that you can use as a handle. So you can screw this right onto the bottom, just like so. And then it comes with a cable that'll work with both the iPhone and the Android phones. And if you've got an iPhone, you need the lightning connector. I didn't bring one out here, but simply put, this goes right inside of here. This plugs into your iPhone, and then anything that comes into the receiver will be recorded right onto your iPhone. And if you want, you can also, instead of using this handheld, you can go ahead and set it up somewhere as a little tripod, and you can run it that way. That is not how I use it though. What I do is all of my videos are shot and all of my audio goes through a mixer before it goes into a camera. And I'm using the Tascam mixer and recorder. So my Tascam is actually collecting all the audio. This is Comica's AX3 mixer. Works really, really well. And the way that this would work is I would run the, I would use the quarter 20 right here, and I'd put it right on top. And then I would run the cable from the receiver right into the mixer. The only reason why I use a mixer is because I'll have more than just a left and a right channel. My mixer can handle up to 4 complete channels, so I can have 8 different things going on at one time. One of the things that is key when it comes to wireless systems is distance. Now I've got some systems that will reach out to about 200 feet, maybe a little bit further. This one actually claimed that it would go out to about 200 feet, but it actually only made it about half the distance. So on the website, it said it was 197 feet for unobstructed and 98 feet obstructed. And I seem to get about half of that. And that's pretty much okay, because for what this system is really designed to do, 100 feet is a long ways away to do your recording. 200 feet, the only time that you're going to need something that distance is if you're way out on a racetrack somewhere where there's some safety concerns and you've got a hide audio system. But I have other gear to do that. This system is more designed to do dual channel interviews and working with different kinds of talent in maybe a movie shoot or something like that. And one of the things that I did to get some better distance was I separated the frequencies out, so these weren't even close together, so they weren't even interfering with each other. Another thing that a videographer knows is that you need to get your cell phone away from your microphones. Because right now I have it set on airplane mode, but cell phones will mess up a whole lot of audio. So that's another thing you can do to help some of that radio frequency. All right, now let's talk about the easiest. That is the lavalier microphones that come here. These are just standard lavalier microphones, but they actually do a pretty good job. The noise floor in them is actually surprisingly low. I didn't get a lot of feedback from any of this equipment at all. I was quite surprised. The only thing that I didn't like about these is the fact that you can't spin these around. I like some of the lavs where I can turn this however I want, so I can position my lav whichever I want. I particularly like to position them downwards. So usually I like this to be inline. I can flip this around but from side to side, but I particularly like mine inline. The audio quality that came from this for the stuff that I do is awesome. It's superb. 90% of what I do is going to be outside anyways. Just the little wind muffs that were on here did a great job blocking the wind. But it does come with these tiny little dead cats, which did awesome. I mean, there was hardly any wind coming through them at all in any of my interviews. And when nobody's talking in the microphone, it will pick up ambient noise going on, you know, the ambient sounds going on around you. But as soon as you started talking, it isolated out your voice and sent it to the recorder instead of just picking up everything and mixing it together. So it did a really good job blocking out the ambient sound while you were talking. And it made it really easy to eliminate all the ambient noise in the channels that I want. Now, the really cool thing is that you have an A and a B, or a left and a right. So the way that I ran the system was I put my A channel onto the left side and my B channel, my B transmitter onto the right side. So when the person A was talking, it was silent on person B, but they could actually talk at the same time. And instead of overriding each other when it recorded, like it would if these were going into a system that was stereo, it actually just layered your audio tracks with your left and then your right, and your audio technician or you can actually separate them out, even if they were walking on each other's questions. There's a lot of time when you're doing interviews that two people will be talking at the same time. This solves that problem. If you wanted to separate them out a little bit, you could. So let's talk about the receiver a little bit. So some of the features that I found pretty awesome in here was the fact that there is an A-B, an A and a B channel. So if I wanted to, I could use this as a single system and I could switch this over to A, and it would put audio both on left and right channels. Or I could put it on B and use the B receiver. I could also set everything to mono. So if I wanted everything to be put together in camera, I can set the switch to mono and it would do that. The receiver has a good amount of range. Each one of the transmitters has their own different set of channels. So they're not the same frequencies, even from the A to the B. The things that I really liked about the receiver is that it was letting me know everything that was going on all at the same time. Not only did it let me know it when I connected, so let's go ahead and connect these real quick. Not only did it let me know that my transmitters were connected via a green LED right here, and you'll see these come up here in just a second. So now that they're connected, but inside the LCD, it let me see the audio coming in, the levels that were coming in. It let me see what the frequencies were. It let me see the signal strength of the radio, the transmitter, so that I could see if it was getting a little bit too far out of range. So as an operator, an audio technician on the back end, or a videographer on the back end, there's a lot of data on here to help me understand what's going on with my audio. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the transmitters. Here, I'll set this one up. One of the things that I liked about the transmitter is that it has the belt clip on it, but it has a mute button so that if the talent needs to mute real quick, they can shut off, and I can see on the receiver if they're muted or not, which is really nice. It also has a low cut filter, so if it is pretty windy outside, you can switch that over to low cut and it will try to cut out some of that noise. Each transmitter has the ability to be an A or B channel. I went ahead and set them up one each. and they're a little bit bigger than some of the other stuff that I've got and used, but we'll talk about the reasons behind that here shortly. Let's talk a little bit about channel bleed. And what is channel bleed? Channel bleed is where audio from one channel will bleed over into the other channel. So an example of that would be is if I'm recording on A and B is off, but I go pull the audio out and I listen to it on the computer, and there's a little bit of faint noise coming from A on B. That's channel bleed. When I first set this system up, I set it up with a Canon M6, and I was noticing a ton of channel bleed. I couldn't believe how much channel bleed I was getting. All right, this is the bleed over test. Right now I have both mics turned on, and as you can see on the back of the camera, there is no audio signals right here. And I'm gonna go turn on the mic for the music playing up in the top corner. So let's go take a look at that and see what happens. Okay, so both mics were on, and I had to unmute the first mic, which is mic A. And as you can tell, the left channel is playing louder than the right channel, but A is actually on the left channel. That should mean that the right channel should be dead, because as you can see, the Comica right here, this mic is off. Let's go ahead and turn it on. So now I have that mic turned on and I'm talking into it, and it's louder than the other one, but there seems to be a whole lot of bleed across the channels, and I have not figured out how to get that out yet. I went ahead and just emailed Comica and said, hey, this is a no-go. The whole idea behind this is to isolate the channels, and it's not. Take a look at this short raw video clip that I got. And they came back and they were like, something's not right, because our system doesn't have any channel bleed. So they were pretty adamant about that. I went back and I yanked the Canon out and I put in my Tascam, and sure enough, their system does not have any channel bleed. It did an actually awesome job. It has a real low noise floor, or self noise floor in it, so you can't even hear it when you're doing your recording. But all the channel bleed was actually in the Canon M6. What you're looking at is the second bleed over test and the sample file from that test. Right now, just for these tests, this bleed over test, I'm gonna make it really simple. To eliminate any outside noise coming from the speakers like we had last time, I've plugged directly into the transmitter A, which is the left channel, into the audio system. So the receiver B, which is on the right channel, which is what you're listening to my voice on, can't pick up any of the ambient music whatsoever. On top of that, channel or receiver A can't pick up any of my audio. It's completely isolated, and I'm not seeing any bleed over whatsoever. I did run the test again, like I said, into the back of the Canon, and it still gave me bleed over. But right now, it's just pure audio. So let's go ahead and turn on the music so that we can hear them together. All right, so now in the left channel, we have music coming in. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my audio channel, which is the right, and be transmitted. And let's see if we get any bleed over. Okay, as you saw, there was zero bleed over at the ceiling that I have right now set, which is roughly about -12 decibels, which is pretty much where you want to be when you're doing recording. But I'm not seeing any bleed over whatsoever. So that's the end of the bleed over test, and the Comica passes with 20. Well, that's fairly definitive. So let's now jump over to the interview with Brett Compton.
That's another factor you have to consider. It's not necessarily the tint is the cause of that dissatisfaction for setting it up.
So there's nothing like being under pressure when you're in a campground with 50 RVs around you, all at 100 grand a piece, and you're setting up your little tent and chasing around your kids, and you're holding some instructions in your hand, and everybody's watching you, knowing this guy is his first time here.
Like Chris mentioned, having kids in a campground, even if it's their first trip or they've been camping before, or being around RVers who have been there all day, they took their time setting up and they've been doing it for years. It can kind of like chip away at someone's ego if like you feel like you're a camper or a backpacker. However,
I'm a professional, dang it, I can do this.
Yes, and all of us guys are people that think that, oh, I don't need to read the instructions. Yeah, you may not need to read the instructions because you just have the innate ability to put something together, but it doesn't hurt, especially when there are good visuals included with the tent, and this tent did provide that. I don't like the fact that this thing runs on AAA batteries. At first, when I saw that, I was a little disappointed, and there's a couple of reasons. One, that's extra space right there. That's really not necessary. These sound pretty hollow, so I'm sure there's some other space in here where you can put a flat lithium, a rechargeable of some sort. But it does make the device bigger, but it also makes it a little bit heavier. 3 sets of batteries is about 40 grams or 1.4 ounces. So when you look at the system as a whole, that's almost 5 ounces of weight. And if you're outside and you're packing a lot of gear, 5 ounces of weight may not sound like a lot, but it adds up pretty quick. If you look at some of the other Comicas that they did, this is a single version of their radio. This one is the SW50, but you can see that it's actually quite a bit smaller. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see that it's actually quite a bit smaller. I'll put it to the edge. So there's a lot of distance there, which is almost as much as that whole battery pack. And that also goes for the transmitters. If you look here, that transmitter is pretty much smaller than the other one. And that goes to be said with the AAA batteries again. So we're looking at 9 AAA batteries. Now, while I was bummed a little bit at first, then I kind of got a little excited because I read in the manual that it has a charging port right here. So each one of these has the ability to run on external power with a Type-C connector, which is becoming pretty common. And in the manual, it said that on external power, if you have rechargeables, it would charge the batteries. And come to find out, it does not. So I did run some tests. I put a meter on it and I was noticing that no, it was providing the 5 volts that it wanted, but it was not pulling any amps out of it. So the next thing that I did was I sent Comica an email and said, hey, what the heck, what's going on? And they verified that the manual is incorrect. And I did check the website. It doesn't say on the website that it will charge it, but the manual did. They did verify that it's incorrect and it doesn't charge. So then again, I was a little disappointed, because now I'm left with either having to carry a ton of batteries with me, or I have to carry a charger that's big enough to do 9 at a time. It's much easier just to bring a brick of some sort and then plug in a couple of cables, you know, while you have some downtime into it. It's a lot less of a hassle. But again, if you're using this for interview situations, it's not going to be like for all-day shoots and that kind of stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. I'm just being picky. All right, some final notes. I love the separate connection indicators, including the LEDs, the signal strength, the audio levels, and even the gain amounts. When dealing with distance for the longer distances, hide the transmitters on the sides of your talons versus the back. This will help keep the body from obstructing the transmitters with the receivers. Try changing to different channels. This almost got me double the distance that I had from the very beginning. Try to avoid interference with each other by separating the channels as far apart as possible. One other thing to remember too is your surrounding interference. That includes microwaves, microwave towers, stuff in your home, elevators, just anything like that that could cause interference. The lavs do come with dead cats, and the transmitters have low cut filters, so if needed, you can use that to help cut the wind. The lavs do pick up some ambient noise when not talking. They're pretty sensitive, but when talking, they do have a tendency to isolate out the ambient, but not all of it, so just be aware of your surroundings. These do have a low noise floor. Self noise is the buzzing or the hissing that you can hear sometimes from electronics and cables, so be aware that if you're picking up any hissing or buzzing or anything like that, it's probably somewhere else in your connection, so check your cables. Cables are really bad too if they're not shielded and they're next to power cable. In the end, these are a great buy. I love using them. They're a huge asset to my war chest for video, and I see a lot of use in their future.